Hey everyone. So, have you ever had one of those arguments where halfway through you realize that you're defending yourself against things that you never said or did? And this is constantly happening. So, you never said she was crazy. You never said she was a bad mother. And you never did the things that you're being accused of. But somehow you're explaining, apologizing, and defending yourself against things that only ever existed in her mind. And you're wondering, is she trying to manipulate or gaslight me? I'm Lise Leblanc, therapist, author, and life coach. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 reasons why being with a partner with strong borderline or narcissistic traits can often feel like you're in the twilight zone. So, 1 minute you're having a normal conversation, and the next, it's like your whole reality has shifted underneath your feet. Suddenly, she's misinterpreting your intentions, rewriting history, or attacking you like you're the worst person in the entire world. Stick around till the end because I will also explain why arguing facts does not work and what you can do instead. Okay, so with that, let's just jump right in. Number one is emotional reasoning. So if she feels abandoned, hurt, criticized, ashamed, or humiliated, those feelings are very real to her and they become evidence that something is wrong. With BPD, the fear of abandonment is very strong. With narcissism, it's a bit different. It's more around humiliation, disrespect, and envy. But when those emotions become overwhelming, the mind doesn't stop to ask, are these feelings accurate? Instead, it assumes that the feelings are proof that something is actually wrong in reality. And that's a trap because you can't argue feelings. And when emotions become intense enough, the truth itself starts being filtered through her emotions. And that's when you end up in two very different realities. The second thing is she starts making a story to fit her feelings. So once her feelings tell her something's wrong, then her brain starts finding explanations and reasons why she feels that way. So it searches for evidence, reinterprets events, ignores contradictory information, and constructs a story that makes the emotions make sense. And we all do this to some degree. But because her emotions are so intense, there's often no way to override them with logic. Her mind latches onto a narrative that matches how she's feeling, and this story might have nothing to do with actual reality. So her mind looks externally for explanations of why she's feeling these intense emotions. So, I feel abandoned, you must be leaving me. I feel insecure, you must be cheating on me. I feel ashamed, so you must be shaming me. I'm angry, so you must have done something to make me angry. And that's where the mind reading, projection, and false assumptions start to take hold. Now your behavior and your intentions are not being interpreted objectively. Everything is being filtered through her emotions. And that's why explaining yourself often doesn't work. You're trying to disprove a story that wasn't built around facts, it was built around feelings. Number three is the suspicion and threat misreading. And here's where neutral things become dangerous. And it explains why she sees abandonment or attacks everywhere she looks. So, people with strong narcissistic or borderline traits are typically very anxious and they live in a state of hypervigilance, constantly scanning their environment for signs of danger. With narcissism, the danger is often criticism, humiliation, or threats to the ego. With BPD, the danger is often threats of abandonment. And because they're operating from the assumption that danger is everywhere, they can start to interpret innocent interactions as dangerous. So a neutral expression on your face becomes a look of disgust. A simple question becomes criticism. A request for clarification is like you're challenging her intelligence. A visit with a friend means you don't care or that you're cheating. So, when someone is living in this constant state of threat, neutral behavior starts to seem suspicious. And they often assume that people don't like them, are judging them, betraying them, or they're convinced that you're hiding something, lying, cheating. And once that lens is in place, everything starts to look like evidence. Innocent actions are taken personally. Neutral comments feel loaded with meaning. And even well intentioned behavior is interpreted as manipulation, rejection, or betrayal. Not because that's what you actually intended, but because that's what they're perceiving. And over time, those interpretations can become so automatic and so convincing that they create an entirely different version of reality that has actually very little to do with what's happening. Number four is splitting, and that's that black and white thinking. And this happens very fast. So, one moment, everything's fine, and then something gets triggered, and suddenly her entire perception of you and the relationship shifts. Anything good about you disappears, and everything bad gets amplified, exaggerated, or even falsified. So, splitting happens because she loses the ability to hold two conflicting truths at the same time. For example, she can't hold on to the fact that you can make a mistake or disappoint her and still be a good man, or that she can be angry with you and still love you, or that a painful moment doesn't erase years of love and sacrifice. And that's when you go from hero to zero in a split second. And suddenly, everything good about you is erased, and you become the enemy in the blink of an eye. Number five is dissociation and memory fragmentation. And this can look a lot like selective memory. So you may have noticed that she can remember every painful detail of something that you said 10 years ago, but somehow she can't remember the cruel thing she said or did last week. Or she remembers one sentence from an argument, but not the 2 hours that, led up to you saying the thing you said. And it feels like she's conveniently remembering the parts that support her side, but everything else disappears. And what might actually be happening is when people with strong borderline or narcissistic traits become flooded with shame, fear, anger, or other painful emotions, they can mentally check out. So they become overwhelmed and their brain starts dropping pieces of information. So they don't always remember the whole argument, just the parts that hurt them, the parts that triggered them, the parts that made them feel ashamed, attacked, or unsafe. So they remember exactly how abandoned, humiliated, or angry they felt, but they have little awareness or recollection of the things that they said or did to contribute to the conflict. So that selective memory might be fragmented memory because emotions don't just shape perception, they also shape memory. Number six is the emergency rewrites. So, when shame, abandonment, humiliation, or narcissistic injury becomes overwhelming, the mind may consciously or unconsciously alter or distort or reconstruct memories in order to create a new story where their painful feelings make sense and their bad behavior is justified. So, in other words, if the truth forces her to face the fact that she was cruel, overreacted, or made a mistake, that reality can feel threatening. So her mind initiates an emergency rewrite, and suddenly the story is changed. They're the victim now, and you're the aggressor. And it's not necessarily because she's trying to deceive you or gaslight you. It's because her mind is trying to protect her from a reality that feels too painful or shameful to face. Number seven is certainty and overconfidence. And this is the part that really makes you feel like you've entered the twilight zone because she is absolutely convinced that she's perceiving and remembering things accurately, which is why so many men tell me, Lise, either she believes herself or she is an Oscar worthy actress. And it's because she sounds so sincere. She sounds genuinely hurt. She sounds absolutely positively convinced. And there is no changing her mind. It doesn't matter how many contradictions you point out or how much hard proof you present. There is no way to get her to admit that she could be wrong or even partially wrong. So forget about accountability because she's convinced that she's the victim and you're the problem and that her version of events is the truth. And that's what makes these conversations so exhausting because facts are irrelevant. Your explanations sound like excuses, clarifications sound like manipulation, and defending yourself becomes proof that you're the narcissist and you're gaslighting her. And that's why you can spend 3 hours explaining yourself and then walk away wondering how two people who lived the same experience could end up living in two completely different realities. And maybe the biggest takeaway from all of this is that you will probably never know whether it was intentional manipulation or straight up gaslighting, or whether they were defending or deceiving themselves or just delusional. So, what do you do with all of this? Well, stop assuming that if you just explain yourself better or provide more evidence or have one more 3 hour conversation, that you'll finally get the two of you back on the same page or in the same reality, because you can't argue feelings and perceptions with facts. If she genuinely feels abandoned, criticized, humiliated, or ashamed, then those feelings become the filter through which she experiences reality. So maybe the goal isn't to get her to accept your reality, but rather for you to start accepting the reality of the relationship. If this video resonated with you, please let me know in the comment section. And if you're trying to break free from this type of relationship, please consider my toxic relationship recovery program that I link below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.